Morning to all of you. Welcome back to the Namaste experience. We were just speaking a moment ago of that hold back, that humanness that holds us back from giving ourselves wholly to the holiness and the wholeness that we really are, the wholeness that is forever whole within us. And we have a prayer, the prayer for the awakened that we share every morning here that is meant to ignite the experience of that wholeness. And I was just asking the question, why do we say that every day? Isn't once enough? And of course, the answer is yes. If we were to say it with complete dedication and no holdback whatsoever, in other words, we were willing to engage in the dissolve and the annihilation of the identity that I've claimed in order to realize and remember the identity that has been claimed for me from the beginning of time, that I am one with God, that there's no such thing as two powers. If I am able to do that, then of course we never need to say that prayer again. But we say it here every day as a reminder, because in our humanness, we often find that the spiritual journey is one step forward, two steps back, or maybe two steps forward and three, whatever, until it's a total step, until we give ourselves totally to that which gives itself totally to us. Does that make sense? Yeah. And so this prayer, the prayer for the awakened, is such a beautiful example. Let me just read this to everyone, for those maybe who aren't with us every day, who don't necessarily always see it. But each part is meant to trigger something on a soul level, a heart level, a mind level, beginning with my soul has only one goal, to awaken to the truth that is forever true. One goal. Everything is distilled into the one. My heart has one desire. So there's the goal, there's the desire. And the desire is to remember the passion of infinite bliss, the willingness to go there. And then finally, my mind has only one focus. This is to remind us that we're here just to keep focusing like a laser beam, not a wide. See, the egoic mind wants us to have a wide, bright light focused on many things rather than a single laser focus on one thing. My true identity, who I really am, beyond time and space, beyond my body, beyond my personality, the reality that is forever real. Then, of course, we always end with, I choose, I make it a choice right here and right now. I choose to awaken now. This is my choice. There is really no time involved in this awakening, though there seems to be. There seems to be a natural progression, which takes time. But in reality, it's always right now, right? It's the instant I make a resolute, uncompromising choice. We talk about that a lot. A resolute, uncompromising choice to awaken now, right now. To the infinite love that is my source, I give everything. This is the key, the willingness to give everything to that source, to that love, to that grace, just as it has given everything to me. The recognition that love is constantly giving everything to me every moment. And finally, the proclamation itself. I am awake now. Say that with me. I am awake now. Beautiful. How does that feel? Real. Yeah. There is a real noticing. There's something within us that registers that proclamation. I am awake now. Whether you are fully awake or whether you're still in that drowsing stage, whether you're still hitting the the snooze button of the alarm clock and falling back to sleep. None of that matters. Just the proclamation that I am awake now stirs something in us. And it's that stirring for us to pay attention to feel, to enjoy. Because doesn't that feel good? Doesn't that stirring, is there anything better in this world than the stirring of awakeness? A stepping away from the hypnotism that has held us in this strange dual spell, the spell of two powers, which of course leads us back to Joel Goldsmith. With this, right, the stir of two powers. So this is something that I found in this beautiful book that I'm reading right now, The Mystical Eye. Every paragraph, it's almost like a Course in Miracles. Every paragraph goes so deep if we will follow. He says, once we know the truth that every form of discord in our life is a form of hypnotism. Every form of discord, every form of discord is hypnotism. To the extent that we can accept God being, the beingness of God, we release ourselves from all sin, all fear, and all diseases in the world when we break free from that hypnotic spell. And so going back to that prayer for the awakened, that's what it's designed to do, to break us free from the hypnotic spell of two, of duality, of the possibility that some will other than the will of love exists. Now, I say the will of love instead of the will of God, because I think we are coming closer and closer to a joyful realization that there is no God outside of my full, unbridled, uncompromising acceptance of my own wholeness. Does that make sense? In other words, there is no God out there. I think we've all come to that point, right? We've let go of the idea of deity or the God that we were raised with, which was usually more of a Santa Claus sort of image or a Zeus sort of idea of this old white man in the sky with a long white beard. You do realize that the vast majority of people who believe in God, that is their image. Now, maybe if you come from an African culture, maybe that changes a little bit, but colonization has probably infused so much of our own images that maybe that old white man in the sky is still prevalent there. I don't know. None of that matters. And that's the key. We have to let go of all of it. So this is where Joel is going to take us next. He calls it the impersonalization of God, to impersonalize. Instead of personalizing God. And we often will say, and we often hear said, that it's helpful to have a personal concept of the divine. Maybe if you're from a Hindu tradition, maybe that would be Krishna or Shiva, or if we're from a Christian tradition, maybe it's Jesus or the Blessed Mother. To personalize something simply because the intellectual mind is unable to depersonalize or impersonalize. We need a focus because we're so focused on ourselves. We're so focused on the idea that there's something real that's happening here in my personality, in my identity, the identity that I've chosen, that there's something real happening here. Therefore, in order to justify that seeming reality, I have to project another seeming reality outside of myself that I call God. Make sense? And so Joel is saying to impersonalize God, to impersonalize evil. He says, know the nature of I as universal being. Do not allow the veil that personalizes God to be put back on. Don't put that idea, that concept, because this is the release of all concepts, especially all of your concepts of what God is, which then helps you release your own concept of who you are. So make no image of God. Do not make a wood carving. Do not make an ivory carving or a gold carving. Do not make even a mental image of God. Then you will not be personalizing God. Now, this seems and sounds very strange to the mind that has not come to a place of sufficient maturity, spiritual maturity, to realize, at least on the beginning level, that there's nothing out there, out here, for me to cling to. You see, the egoic mind is constantly looking for a buoy to cling to hold itself up in what it perceives to be this turbulent ocean. If you're on the surface of an ocean in the midst of a storm, holding onto a buoy, guess what's happening? You're all over the place. You're up and down. You're having a hard time holding on. And this is the perceptual mind. What Joel and A Course in Miracles and every other awakened being is saying, let go of the buoy and dive, sink. Because when you do, guess what? All of that tumultuous, all the waves, all the energy at the surface disappears the deeper I go. So dive, let go of the buoy. The buoy are our concepts of God, which are really our concepts of ourselves. They're really one and the same. So once again, to a mind that has not reached a sufficient amount of spiritual maturity, the idea of letting go of all of that is the scariest, most frightening thing in the world. Letting go of all of my concepts of God. But to one like all of you who have come to that point of spiritual maturity, it is the greatest delight. And if you still feel a sense of fright in the idea of just letting go of everything, that's okay. But do it anyway. Because I promise you, you have come to a point where even if there is a little bit of fear still left in letting go of all of those concepts that you've held on to, especially the concept of God itself, in the letting go of that, you will experience such joy that it will be gone in an instant. And so this is why Joel is calling us to impersonalize God, to let go of all of the concepts. I'm going to read a little bit more from this beautiful book. He says, the minute you have an image of God in your thought, you are personalizing. You're making God a person. And you are expecting that concept to be God. Remember, it's just a concept. And a concept cannot be God. And here's the thing, a concept can't be you either. You're not a concept, though you have made yourself seem like one. But no longer. Once again, the acknowledgement that you've come to a point of spiritual maturity where you don't need the buoy is enough to let you let go and sink, where all of those concepts begin to disappear. Okay. And a concept cannot be God. Only I, the I, remember, it begins with I am that I am. That's the beginning of the spiritual journey to I am that. That's the deepening of the spiritual journey to I am, which is the full allowing of the spiritual immersion to simply I. Of this we cannot speak. So this is what Joel's saying. Only I, the presence of I, can be God. And you cannot have a mental image of this. There's no mental image of this I. That is the one word, the I, that defines, or defies rather, that defies description. Try as you will, you cannot make a mental image of I. Try it if you want. But Every mental image that you're going to hold is going to be some concept that you claim about you, which then becomes a concept that you project as God. And do you see how it gets further and further away from the truth? And so the ultimate spiritual journey is letting go of all of that. Like it says in A Course in Miracles, like we mentioned all the time, come with holy empty hands unto God. Let it all go. Hold no thought. Let it all go. A little bit more. Once this truth has been unveiled in you, it will never be veiled for you again. Once you take this step, I promise you, once you really take it, there'll be no going back. That may seem scary at first. Oh, but what if I'm wrong? You're not. You're not wrong about this. You all know that because you've all had those, we'll call them holy instances, those instances of such brightness, of such light, bursts of reality, that you know this is real. The only thing that has been lacking is your consistent allowing of that. But that consistency is growing within you now. You're becoming more and more consistent in welcoming the holy instant, and the brightness of that, the illumination that occurs within you because of that, is sufficient so that you'll never go back again because you've seen too much. Okay, you will never be able to go back to making concepts of God or looking for God to do something to the nothingness and the non-power of this world of effect. Wow, that's a big one. Let me read it one more time. You will never be able to go back to making concepts of God or looking for God to do something. And here's the keys: to the nothingness and the non-power of this world. Boy, oh boy, now we're in the deep end of the pool. You better start swimming or sink, one of the two. Either will do, either will work. The nothingness of the world of form. That has a good ring to it, doesn't it? Always that smile will come to your lips and the word I will come. And you will be at peace and you will be at rest. And then in quietness and confidence, you can be a beholder of God in action, not in identity, but in action. Going back to that prayer for the awakened, everything in that prayer is action. Okay? It's not static, in other words. There's an activity of mind within it. And so this is what Joel is calling the action of God. You do not impel it. You do not empower it. You do not send it forth. In quietness and confidence, you become a beholder, watching it at work. I'm sure you can all relate to that. Watching the presence of I at work in your life, in the world, no matter what. Even when it seems like the tornado has come, the hurricane is spinning, you become the I in the center of that hurricane. Where there's no movement, there is no need for anything other than the presence of I. Not even I am. We're even beyond that now. Simply the presence of I. That's exciting. So let's start with Penny Honey today. I'm going to invite Penny Honey to come up, and then we'll let Vicky hold the Calico Corner energy. So come on up here. I'd love to hear what you think of all this craziness.
Me too. Good morning.
Good morning.
Say this with me. I. I. And that concludes my part today. Just kidding. Yeah, like you put me in front of a microphone and I'd beat that all I have to say. Ah, you talk about that action of God, right? That seeing God in action. Look around.
Yes.
Look around. Open your ears, open your eyes, open your hearts. God in action. In New Thought, we talk about the quickening of the soul, the quickening of the opening. And I say, come on. Some days I say, come on a little faster, because I've noticed I have separated myself from the preciousness of the I. The quickening of our soul, the waking up, the presence to the only, the one, the I. Not a bad place to start. So, you were talking about that dissolving thing. And it is only when we get to that point and walk through the concern, the fear, I don't understand this, I don't know. And I've said this to you before, that place of I don't know is where we really step into infinite possibility. Because right up until that moment, I had a predisposed idea. Right up until that moment, I had separated myself and I had a better idea. I am sure I am the only one in the room. No, no, no. That sounds really good, Spirit. But you know what? I'm thinking this, right? And what I so appreciate about I is that it will patiently wait on that humanness of mine. It will allow me to have the experience and the fear of dissolving. We step in, we step out. That human holdback, that little gap right there for me is where the growth happens. I get into my human holdback and I feel the resistance. And then I gently allow myself to move into the holy forward. Human holdback, holy forward. Human holdback, holy forward. Now, some of you may just be living on this holy forward side, and I want to spend more time with you. That human holdback is when I get to remember. It's when the separation is so clear. It's when I can stand back and I can see it. And then I can just put my arms around myself, and the I comes in, and I am dissolved into my greatest expression. So a little less human holdback and a little more holy forward. That's what I invite us into. Just try it today. If it doesn't work out, you can go back to your habits tomorrow. It'll still be there. And with that, Miss Vicky, I am excited to hear from you this morning.
Well, thank you, Reverend Penny, and thank you, Brother James, and hello, everybody. And you really got me on the human holdback and the holy forward. Don't you guys love that? Because that's exactly the point of healing. Right there is where we want to hold on to some concept of what we think will make us happy. Better health, better life, better something. Right there. That's it. And it's always just right now. And that's the moment when James says, dive deep, either sink or swim. And what happens is when we sink or swim, or when we're willing to sink or swim, what happens is we get wings. That's when that holy instinct kicks in. You go from, oh no, and let go. It's like, I guess, being on a roller coaster, and instead of being, oh no, killed. Oh no, spaciousness. What is that? Luminous spaciousness opens up, and all of a sudden you're in this experience of the fullness of being. And part of it, all of it, one of it, none of it is separated out. It's in all of it. That's that spaciousness. And from there, whatever comes through, we are beholding. When it doesn't come from that spot, we're manufacturing. And I'm tired of manufacturing. Manufacturing was a lot of work, a lot of maintenance, a lot of bills, a lot of work. Coming through that spaciousness and beholding, because think about it, you can only behold in the now. You can't behold yesterday or tomorrow, only right now. And so the way the Course in Miracles will say it, it says, and Judy, thank you, because you're so tuned in to the rhythm of how we are unfolding here about healing and accepting the atonement for myself. That's what Jesus's directions are. The sole responsibility of each of us is in the moment when we're holding on to accept the I, the oneness for myself. In that moment, instead of holding on, manufacturing more options and solutions, pushing for this or pushing for that, whoosh, let go and be willing to sink or swim. Be willing and find that we have given wings of grace that I don't know, we're just like catapulted into this ocean of grace. And those are those bursts of light you were talking about, Brother James, that sustain us so that we want only that, which Joel calls make ourselves a transparency. So there's nowhere we're still holding on, holding back. Make ourselves a transparency. So every one of those holdbacks, okay, let it go and let's see. Let's see what happens and fall into that spaciousness by grace. And I will do that all day today, Penny. Thank you for the challenge. And thank you for the joining. And thank you for the opportunity. That's all we ever have to do. When we accept that moment for ourselves, it is a way of life. So thank you, Brother James. Thank you, Reverend Penny. And I see Scott in the room.
Yes, thank you very much. One final thought before we close our week. This falling or sinking and the initial fear that may accompany that, the idea that we're going to drown or die, we're going to drown in this experience, reminds me of the feeling that perhaps a caterpillar has when it begins to weave around itself this cocoon, this tomb, really, in its mind. It's entering into a type of tomb where it seems to die. It literally dissolves, just as we are being called to dissolve, to let go completely, even to the idea that this is a tomb rather than a chrysalis. I become the chrysalis. And what emerges from that tomb? The butterfly. Yes. There is no death. This is why in the Course it says, Teacher of God, your one role can be summed up in this way. Teach that there is no death. There's just transformation. But transformation only occurs when I give myself to that, when the I sinks into the experience itself. And to that we say, Amen, 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 y punto. Namaste, everyone.